Hey there. You know, I talk a lot about unconditional love, but that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to be angry anymore. It's a normal feeling. And to be honest, some people or things make it very hard for you to love them. So it's time for a little rant. Let's talk about German railways, Deutsche Bahn AG. Now, my mom always says, as long as Deutsche Bahn was a state-owned company, was all perfectly fine. But it all went down with a privatization into the Deutsche Bahn AG, shareholder company. It's true, or is it? Let's talk about some facts. Now, until 1993, Deutsche Bahn was state-owned. And in 1993 alone, they made a loss of 8 billion euros. Now, in 1994, they had to fusion with the Deutsche Reichsbahn from former German Democratic Republic, and they made a shareholder company out of it, the Deutsche Bahn AG. The charming side effect of a shareholder company is that you get a lot of money in an instant, because you split up your company in shares and somebody out there buys those shares. And those somebody out there's, they now own the company. And for those selling and buying transactions, you have the stock exchange. But the Deutsche Bahn is not part of the stock exchange. All of those shares are held by the German government. Right. So, in fact, Deutsche Bahn is still a state-owned company. They just put the money from the left pocket to the right pocket. But now they are somehow doomed to make profit. Now, usually with a shareholder company, once a year you have a shareholder meeting. And depending on how much shares you hold, either you're an investment company or a private person, you have a voice to decide, to agree, to disagree. So the shareholders, because they own the company, they decide what happens. Now, who decides with the Deutsche Bahn AG? Exactly, the German government. So there's no need to be angry at the Deutsche Bahn AG. You have to be angry at the German government. It has nothing to do with privatization. It's all the same. It didn't change anything at all. Now, whenever I'm abroad and I talk to people who have never been to Germany, they ask me, where you come from? I say, Germany. They say, oh, Germany, everything well organized, everything punctual, everything la la la. And I always say, no, fuck you. This is a picture painted in the 60s and maybe 70s. It doesn't exist anymore. Germany nowadays, kind of a banana republic. Now, before I come to my current experiences, let me tell you one thing. I was driving by train in France, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Austria, Switzerland. I even went once, about 20 years ago, with a night train from Odessa to Kiev in Ukraine. 6 hours ride. And you know, infrastructure, sitting on the train was like riding a camel, no kidding. But we left in time and we arrived on time. Germany, no. All other countries, punctual. In fact, there are some countries, I think Italy is one of them, don't quote me. They don't allow German trains in the country. They don't allow German trains in the country because they mess with their own schedule. Back to the present. Now last week I wanted to go to Warsaw, Poland, to visit a friend, and I had to go to Düsseldorf airport. And yeah, flight was 10:25, so check-in around 9 means I could have left at around 8. But in fact, I left at 6. Why is that? Now, the train station is about 15 minutes walk from my home. And I use the app from the Deutsche Bahn in order to check if it's in time or not. So, before I leave, I check. Everything's green, on time, fine. Now, after 10 minutes walk, I check another time, because that's my last chance to get a coffee. Was 2 minutes late. 2 minutes is nothing. 5 minutes later, when I was at the train station, was 35 minutes late. Are you kidding me? And the reason for that was another late train that was blocking the rails before them. Do you want to tell me you didn't know that 5 minutes ago, when it's now 35 minutes late? Are you fucking kidding me? I had to change the trains in Cologne main station. Of course, my connection train was gone. Next one was 20 minutes late. So after all, I arrived 1.5 hours late at the airport. And a train being late or cancelled is not the exception. It's the rule. So what they did with all the money they created with fusioning in a shareholder company, I tell you, they shoot expensive TV commercials that are sent out on prime channels at prime time, with some celebrities sitting in an almost empty train and a more than friendly service guy coming around with some fresh hot coffee. Guys, that doesn't exist. That is, maybe it exists in a different timeline, but not in our current reality. Different story. My mom is living in Kiel, about, don't know, 400, 500 from my place. And usually I go by plane to Hamburg from Cologne, and then I go by bus. Takes me about in total, don't know, 6 hours. Now, once my mom convinced me to take the train. There's a direct train from Cologne to Kiel. Takes, I don't know, 5.5 hours. Very comfy. No waiting at the airport. And I said, okay, I give it a try. Now, first of all, although the train started in Cologne, it arrived already 45 minutes late. And when we are in the train operator said, sorry, but we have no steering wagon. So means usually we would have to leave the station in a different direction. Now we can't. So we're gonna be rerouted. It takes a little longer. Now, Kiel is a head station, one direction, you know, in and out. Usually, when the train arrives at Kiel, it waits about, I don't know, 30 minutes and then goes back in the same direction back to Cologne. That's the plan. Now on my ride, apart from 45 minutes late, we accumulated another 30 minutes late on top. And because we have been that late, 30 minutes before Kiel, small town, small city called Neumünster, they said, your ride is over, the train ends here, goodbye, thank you for traveling with Deutsche Bahn. Now I'm German. I was born in Kiel, I know the area. I'm used to travel public transport. For me it was annoying, but not a big deal. But there were many foreign people on the train because Kiel has a huge harbor with cruise ships. Now, since I'm somewhat good at English, I helped those people how to get to Kiel. And then we waited together another 40 minutes to get a local train in that direction. That's hilarious. Now, one last story before I come to the conclusion. My former boss had to go to Stuttgart a lot of times. And I always said, Stuttgart has an airport, why don't you go by plane? He said, no, train is more comfy, la la la. Anyway, once he went to Stuttgart because he had a meeting. Train was 5 hours late. And he said he just arrived at the station, grabbed a coffee, and then hopped on the next train back home because meeting was already over. Now, back in the early 90s, I was still living in Hamburg and I had to commute 1.5 hours by train, Deutsche Bahn and underground. And in the entire 8 years that I worked there, I was never late. Not once. And now, happened so many times that I walk to the station and then I return and work from home because the train is that late that it doesn't make sense anymore. Now the problem is, I could do that. Many people don't have the opportunity. They have to show up physically. When you're 1 hour late, means either you don't get paid or you have to wait, you have to work 1 hour longer. So I don't give a fuck if you give me back the money for the ticket. You stole time of my life. So anyways, I really would love to go by train. But as long as the Deutsche Bahn is not able to provide a reliable service, whenever there's an airport around, I go by plane. And don't let me get started about the reasons they have for apologies why they are late. You know, either it's weather-related incidents or people on the track or another train that is late. There is always someone to blame except the train that you want to go with. And of course, except the Deutsche Bahn. They are never to blame. It's always somebody else. Especially when it comes to, let's say, domestic travel. Even if the train is on time. The plane is not faster. But when I'm waiting at the airport, I have so many options to go shopping, sit in a nice restaurant, whatever. I'm only for about 1 hour on the plane itself. This is much more comfy than waiting in a windy station platform with no service at all. And depending on when you book, often going by plane is even cheaper. So anyways, what do you think? And now when the environmentalists show up, I would go by plane even if it's 3 or 4 times the cost. Take that. So far, stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned. And buon viaggio, how the Italian guys say.